My name is Velvel Pasternak. I was born in 1933 in Canada, and I came to New York in 1949, which means that for 67 years, I have been a New Yorker. Today, I am a publisher of Jewish music, trying desperately to hold on to a heritage of Eastern European and Ashkenazic, certain kind of Jewish music that is not being treated by anybody else. And so there's a sentence which says that if someone else is not doing it, you have to be the person who does it. And so I've published some 200 books of Jewish music with the heritage of and the repertoire of Jews throughout the world. I landed in New York in 1949, third year of high school, in Washington Heights, where the school was named Talmudical Academy. It was a branch of Yeshiva University. I was 15 and a half at the time, and it was a little bit fearful to be in New York on my own. As a young lad, I was kind of isolated in Canada, in a small community, and here I was in the big city with the skyscrapers and without any friends, except the ones that I would make as I kept going on in my studies in the high school. It did not take too long, and I made friends with other students who had come from other parts of the country and from Canada and from Europe, who were all seeking a Jewish education, because at the time there was very, very little outside of New York City. But the atmosphere in New York was absolutely wonderful because it was teeming. A child from Toronto, Canada, that had always looked at the pictures of the skyscrapers, and here he was in New York on his own, without his parents, and had to function on his own. Thank the Lord that New York gave me that chance to mature and to grow and to become, hopefully, what I am today. During my high school years, I lived in the dormitory of the Talmudical Academy, which was in the Washington Heights area. I was very, very lucky because we did have family members who lived on the Lower East Side and in Brooklyn, and they were a quasi-support system. In other words, I could call on a relative during the week and get some kind of support as a young man. And after living in Washington Heights for many, many years and going through college, I then took an apartment in that area with two of my classmates, and we stayed in this apartment until we were married. We had a kind of agreement that the first to get married would leave the apartment for the married group, and so from there I moved into Brooklyn with a cousin of mine, very close cousin, and I stayed there until I got married. Meanwhile, I was going to Columbia and to Juilliard and getting my education. I dropped out of rabbinical school because I wanted to do, I felt that I wanted to sermonize through music rather than through homiletics. And so I got my degree in Columbia and a partial degree in Juilliard. In the 1950s, New York City was a mecca for Jewish boys and girls to meet. As a matter of fact, young men and young women came from all parts of the world to be in New York City and to hopefully, among other things, meet their, what we call bashert, the woman or the man who was destined to become their partner in life. In our school, we also had socializing There was a women's division, which was in Manhattan, and there were Sabbath get-togethers, certain Zionist programs where young men and young women would meet. In addition to that, it was a kind of tradition to have skating on Thursday nights in a Brooklyn skating rink, where young men and young women would meet and skate and talk, and I was lucky enough to meet my Bashert, Goldie, one evening. She was a little perturbed that after I spent time talking to her endlessly, that I did not take her home, because the trip to East New York and then back to Washington Heights would have been about 2.5 hours. And I just was not in the mood. So she thought that this was over. But what happened was that we ended up taking a class in Columbia University in music for children, and we met again, and instead of paying too much attention to the professor, we sort of paid attention to each other, and we got married some 6 months later.
When I was a teenager, I was very, very active in folk dance groups. And one of the things we did, every year there was an Israeli folk dance festival. And I had groups of young people from all over the city getting together and dancing. One day, we were off from school and we had a rehearsal in Manhattan. And after the rehearsal, someone said, "You know what? It's Thursday night. They're ice skating at Madison Square Garden tonight. Who wants to go?" Hadn't thought about it before, but we went out and bought warm socks and we went ice skating. Well, I came in, and somebody introduced, someone who I was teaching with, happened to come over and introduced Velvel to me. Well, we started going round and round. I wasn't a good skater. He wasn't. He roller skated, but he said he didn't skate. So I said, "Well, you're into music, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Here, I was teaching the professional how to go 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Well, we went around, we skated together the entire evening. And when it came to going home, we skated to the ice skate return, and he said to me, "See you around sometime." He didn't ask me for my phone number. Spent the entire evening with him. He didn't even say, "Give me your phone number," something. I was furious. I had other people to go home with who got off the A train at the same place that I did. So we went out for ice cream and I went home. And sure enough, 2 weeks later, he called. He happened to know somebody that I had gone out with who was in the dormitory 2 rooms down. So he knew where to get my phone number. But the fact that he didn't ask me, he started off on the wrong foot. Then I was teaching in the public schools, and I did have background in music, but I wanted to broaden the range of what I was doing. So I took a course. I signed up for a course called Music for Children with Gladys Tipton at Columbia University. Well, he was getting his master's in music education. And who should be in the same classroom? There was Velvel Pasternak. At the end of the first class, he came over, we said hello. We remembered that we had been introduced when we had gone skating. Now, the skating in Madison Square Garden that night was lots of boys who went to YU, Yeshiva University, and that already we knew that there was a certain classification. You were Sabbath observers, you were religious, there were certain things that you believed in or certain things that you did, which made it much easier when you didn't have to go through the process of asking all kinds of questions. So he said to me, "What are you doing after class?" I said, "Oh, I'm going folk dancing at Fred Burke's, 92nd Street Y." He said, "Mind if I join you?" He always used to play the piano when everybody else was dancing. So came in, he spent the entire evening watching. We were dancing. I guess he didn't mind. It was okay. But after a few months, it was kind of, we were going to steady. And he went back to Canada and told his parents, "I met a girl." They were in Canada, they were in Toronto. I was in Brooklyn. And I was invited to come out for the holiday in June. That's when I got my engagement ring. Well, next time we were off was Christmas vacation. So that's when we got married.
We are grateful that the New York area supplied us with the ability to be married, because we met here, and we went ice skating here, and we went to Columbia here. New York provided us the opportunity. It also provided two of our girls the opportunity to study in New York City at a school in Midtown Manhattan, and my son studied in a high school in Riverdale, which is the Bronx, which is New York. So we are grateful to the environment, to the entire city, but it supplied us our great 60 years of marriage and also our children's education.
You forgot to say Cooper Union. That's,
Oh yes,
yeah.
My youngest son is a graduate of the very, very well-known Cooper Union Engineering School, and he is now a big software engineer running an entire unit in Boston, Massachusetts. So we are grateful, and went on a full scholarship, which was
when they had full scholarships.
when they
at
had
that
full
time.
scholarship.
It was nice. Okay. That's
Oh
it.
yes, and my younger daughter married a boy from New York, so who is now working for a very, very charitable organization, a $1 billion conglomerate that gives out charity money, and he's a money raiser from Merrick, New York.
A boy from New York who went to school here, and the two of them had to meet in Jerusalem.
But New Yorkers, I need you to talk. I can write music, but I need you to talk.
There's an expression that says that 10 parts of speech were given to the people on earth. 9 were given to the women, and only 1 to the men.
That's right.
So I have to keep up with the... You didn't get that, did you?